It was late afternoon when I got the text. I wasn't expecting anything urgent, maybe just a casual check-in from Claire. She often sent me random stuff, memes, song recommendations, whatever, but this wasn't that. This was something else. "Hey, I need to tell you something," Claire's message started. "I've been talking to Dr. Jensen. We're friends now on Facebook." The text just sat there on my screen like a bruise, like something I didn't want to touch but couldn't look away from. "She shared a lot about your therapy, personal stuff, childhood stuff, the kind of things she shouldn't talk about with anyone." I stared at it. My thumb hovered over the screen, unsure of what to do with the shock spreading across my chest. My mind was foggy, trying to process what she just said. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just cold. How could Dr. Jensen share my personal shit with Claire? Of all people, I trusted her with things I'd never told anyone. Things that had taken years to even begin to process. And now Claire, who I loved, was telling me that my therapist had spilled it all? It didn't make sense. I started scrolling through the text exchange, reading it again, then again. Claire had said she found out after she'd started chatting with Dr. Jensen. She mentioned my trust issues. She mentioned things about my dad, my past. Stuff no one should know unless I told them. I took screenshots of every message, every piece of evidence, making sure I documented it all. My hands were shaking now, no matter how hard I tried to keep them still. How deep did this go? How much of me had Dr. Jensen shared? I sat down, feeling the weight of it sink in like a stone. My privacy, my entire life, had been invaded, and all I could do was sit there, staring at the phone. I texted back, trying to keep calm. "Thanks for letting me know," I wrote, keeping it neutral. "I'll figure out what to do." I didn't say anything about confronting her or Dr. Jensen, or how I felt like I might lose control. After that, I started researching. What could I do? How could I file a complaint? I needed to know the process step by step, like a checklist. First, I needed proof. More proof. I'd have to keep everything in order. Everything needed to be airtight. The violation was clear enough, but I needed to know exactly how to fight back. I didn't want to, but I had to. I spent the rest of the afternoon combing through everything I could find. Screenshots of the conversation with Claire were easy enough. Those were already saved. But then I dug into my therapy records. I needed to see what Dr. Jensen had written, what kind of notes she'd kept on me. If anything stood out as more personal than it should have been. I found it buried deep in the document. She'd written down things about my childhood that I never even told her directly. Details from our sessions that only she and I had talked about. It was a punch to the gut, seeing it all there in black and white. Then I went to social media. Facebook. Dr. Jensen's profile was public, of course it was. Everything I'd ever trusted her with was out in the open, right under my nose. It didn't take long to see what Claire had meant. Dr. Jensen and Claire were friends. They'd been commenting on each other's posts like old pals. Dr. Jensen had liked a picture of Claire at a concert, something that had happened just last month. Claire had posted about some kind of new hobby, and Dr. Jensen had commented, "So proud of you. Keep going, girl." How many times had this happened? How much had been shared? I took more screenshots. I saved everything. Every like, every comment, every timestamp. I was building my case now, no turning back. I created a folder titled Breach of Confidentiality. I didn't know if it would be enough, but I wasn't taking any chances. This was bigger than I wanted to admit, but the only thing I could do now was follow through. When I felt like I had everything I could get, I took a break, grabbing my phone and looking up the licensing board for therapists in my state. There were clear instructions on how to file a complaint. I read through them twice, then 3 times, trying to make sense of the process. I felt this growing pressure in my chest. If I did this, there was no going back. Exposing Dr. Jensen could ruin her career, her entire life. I knew that, but I also knew that what she'd done to me, and who knows how many others, deserved to be stopped. The weight of it all hit me hard. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was stepping into deep water. But I had no choice. She had crossed a line I could never unsee. That evening, Claire came over to pick up some things she'd left at the apartment. I knew I had to confront her. My hands were still shaking, but this was it. Claire, I started, my voice tight. How long have you been talking to Dr. Jensen? She shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting away like she already knew where this was going. I don't know, a couple weeks, maybe? I felt a sharp tug in my chest. Couple weeks? A couple weeks? I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. And what exactly has she told you? Claire hesitated, biting her lip. Nothing bad. Just, stuff about you. About your past. Stuff you've talked about in therapy. I felt something snap inside me. You mean the stuff I trusted her with? The stuff you weren't supposed to know? She shifted again, and I could see the guilt settling in behind her eyes. I wasn't trying to do anything wrong. Okay? She paused, her words catching. I didn't know what else to do. We were talking about my ex-boyfriend, and I felt like maybe she could help me understand you better. You know? I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying. It didn't add up. You've been talking to her about me? About my personal shit? Without asking me first? What did you think was going to happen? I didn't mean for it to be like this, she said quickly, like she was trying to stop me before I could get too angry. I was just trying to understand you, to be there for you. I thought, maybe it would help. It was like a bomb went off in my head, but I tried to keep my cool. My hands were clenched at my sides. You thought talking to my therapist about my trauma would help? How much did she share with you, Claire? Her silence answered the question. The look on her face said it all. She knew it was wrong, but she'd done it anyway. I let out a long breath, letting the weight of it all hit me. I don't think you get it, Claire. This isn't just a misunderstanding. She's violated my privacy. My therapy's supposed to be a safe place. Now I don't even know who I can trust. I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear, she whispered, her voice shaky now. I shook my head. I couldn't take any more of this. I need you to leave. She blinked, stunned. What? Just go. Please. She didn't say anything else. She just grabbed her things, slow and deliberate, like she couldn't believe it was happening. I didn't watch her leave. Couldn't. Instead, I stood there, feeling like the ground had shifted under me, like everything I knew was suddenly unrecognizable. I didn't know what was next, but I knew one thing. This wasn't over. When Claire came back to the apartment later that night, I was already there, waiting. I didn't know how to start, but I had to. This couldn't just be something we brushed aside. Not after everything. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her, and I could tell she was trying to act normal, like nothing had changed. But I wasn't having it. How long have you and Dr. Jensen been talking about me? I asked, my voice flat but tight. I wasn't going to let her twist this or dodge it. She froze for a second, looking caught off guard, like she was hoping I'd just forget. I already told you a couple weeks. I didn't flinch. No. I mean, how much has she told you about my therapy? My personal shit? Claire swallowed, her eyes darting to the side. It wasn't like that, okay? She didn't go into detail. She just told me things that would help me understand you better. I felt my pulse start to race. You think knowing about me makes you understand me better? You think she has the right to share anything from our sessions? Even if you asked her to. She didn't share anything, okay? She said, and her voice cracked a little. She just said some things that would help me help you. Help me be there for you. Be there for me? I repeated, shaking my head. Claire, she's my therapist. She's not supposed to be your personal counselor. What kind of advice did she give you? What did she say about me? Her eyes flickered, but she didn't answer right away. She was thinking, trying to figure out how much of the truth she could get away with. But I was done letting her slide by. I need to know, Claire, I pressed. What did she say? What exactly did she tell you about me? Finally, she let out a sigh, her shoulders slumping. She told me about your childhood, about how hard it's been for you with your dad and how it's affecting our relationship. She said you had trust issues, that you're afraid of getting close to anyone. A cold wave of disbelief hit me. She told you all that? I felt my chest tighten. She told you things that were supposed to be private? My therapy is supposed to be about me, not you, not her, and definitely not some strange idea of how to fix our relationship. Claire's face flushed, and she bit her lip. I didn't know what else to do. I wanted to understand you better. I thought if I could talk to her, maybe I'd get why you pull away. Why you don't trust me the way you should. I let that sink in for a second. My stomach twisted. So, you've been talking to her about me? Without telling me? You really thought that was okay? Did you ever think I might find out? I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, voice trembling. I was just trying to figure out what was wrong. You're always so closed off, and I didn't know how to help. It wasn't the right way to go about it, I know that now. But I was just trying to help. I let out a bitter laugh. Help? By going behind my back and talking to my therapist? By having her share my personal shit so you could understand me better? Claire's expression softened, and she stepped closer. I wasn't trying to manipulate you, okay? I swear. I was trying to fix things. I just wanted to know how to be there for you. A slow, almost detached anger began to burn through me. She wasn't hearing me. She wasn't understanding what she'd done. You weren't trying to manipulate me? Then why the hell did you need advice from her about me at all? Why couldn't you just ask me? Why couldn't we talk about it? I thought it would help, she said again, more quietly this time. I could feel my frustration boiling over, like the lid was about to blow off. You know what, Claire? I can't do this. I don't know what you were trying to fix, but you broke something that's never going to be fixed now. My trust. It's gone. It's all gone. She opened her mouth, probably to say something, but I couldn't hear it. I was already beyond the point of caring. This wasn't just about her trying to help me. This was about me realizing that everything had changed, and I couldn't go back. I need you to leave, I said, my voice low but firm. Now. She blinked, clearly stunned. What? I said, I need you to leave. I didn't raise my voice, but the force of it was enough. I wasn't backing down now, not after everything. Claire's eyes filled with something between confusion and hurt, but I couldn't read it anymore. You're kicking me out? Yes. The word was final. There was no room for negotiation. She didn't say anything more, just stood there for a second, almost as if waiting for me to take it back. But I didn't. Slowly, she started to gather her things, her movements slow and deliberate, like she still couldn't quite believe what was happening. She didn't even look at me as she left. I didn't watch her go. Couldn't. Once the door clicked shut behind her, the silence in the apartment felt suffocating. I stood there for a moment, just trying to breathe, trying to process everything. I had no idea where to go from here. But I knew one thing. I couldn't let this go. The next day, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my computer screen like it was a ticking bomb. The online portal for the state's licensing board was open, and the form to file a formal complaint was waiting for me. I already had everything I needed, screenshots from the texts with Claire, the posts Dr. Jensen had made on Facebook, timestamps of when they'd interacted. Everything was lined up like evidence in a case, and that's exactly what it was. I wasn't doing this for petty revenge or to make a point. This was about accountability. She'd crossed a line, and I couldn't let it go. My hands shook as I typed out the complaint, as if the act of putting it all in writing would somehow make it more real. I detailed every interaction, from Claire and Dr. Jensen's initial friend requests to the intimate details of my therapy sessions that had been shared with Claire. I even attached the screenshots of the social media posts where Dr. Jensen had commented on Claire's pictures, giving her advice that should never have left the office. I had to admit, though, that as I hit submit, there was a heavy weight in my chest, a mix of relief and dread. Relief that I was finally doing something about the breach of my trust. Dread because I knew this wasn't going to be simple. The investigation would go public. It would stir up things I didn't want to revisit, and it could cost Dr. Jensen everything. A part of me felt guilty for doing that, but another part, the part that had been wronged, knew this was the only way to stop her from doing it to someone else. I leaned back in my chair and rubbed my face, feeling the exhaustion from the past few days settle deep in my bones. The emotional toll was more than I had realized. Claire, Dr. Jensen, this whole situation had dragged me under. The trust I'd thought I'd built with Claire was gone, and the trust I'd placed in Dr. Jensen had turned to ash. I kept replaying our last conversation. The way Claire had acted like it wasn't a big deal, the way she couldn't even see how much damage she'd caused. Maybe that's what hurt the most. How little she seemed to understand. How little anyone understood except me. I called a couple of friends, trying to keep my mind from spiraling. The phone rang a few times before one of them picked up. It was Mark, one of the few guys I trusted. "Hey man, you good?" he asked, sounding like he could tell something was off. I sighed and leaned against the counter, feeling the weight of everything hit me again. I filed the complaint. Mark was quiet for a beat. Then, "You did the right thing. I know this whole thing's been a nightmare, but you had to. No one's allowed to do that to you." "Yeah, I know," I muttered. "But now it's real. Like, everything's gonna come out. People are gonna talk. I'm gonna have to relive all this crap with Dr. Jensen. And I'm not sure I'm ready for that." "None of us are ever ready for stuff like this," Mark said, his voice soft. "But you're doing the right thing, man. You're standing up for yourself. Just make sure you keep your focus on her. Not Claire. She's the one who broke all the rules, not you." I knew Mark was right. I couldn't let Claire's actions distract me from the bigger issue. Still, I couldn't help but think about her, how things had shifted between us. I'd spent so much time trying to make that relationship work, trying to get her to understand me, only to find out she didn't really know me at all. "You're right," I said, trying to shake the feeling off. I don't know what's next, you know? I'm in the middle of all this mess, and I don't even know what I'm supposed to do next. Take it one day at a time. I'm here, dude. You need anything, just say the word." "Thanks, man," I said, my voice tight. After hanging up, I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen for a few more minutes. The complaint was filed. Now I had to wait. My life felt like it was in a holding pattern, suspended in some limbo, waiting for a response. It was hours later when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I checked the screen. A number I didn't recognize. I picked it up, unsure if I was ready for whatever was about to happen. "Hello? Hello? Is this protagonist's name?" The voice was formal, but there was something almost reassuring in the tone. "This is him," I said, tension creeping up my spine. "This is agent's name with the state's licensing board for therapists. I'm calling regarding the complaint you filed against Dr. Jensen. We've reviewed your submission and we are opening an investigation." The words hit me like a punch, but I didn't let myself show it. "Okay, what happens next?" "We'll begin gathering information, speaking with you further if necessary, and reaching out to Dr. Jensen for her response. This process can take some time, but we will keep you updated." I nodded even though she couldn't see it. "Thanks for letting me know." After the call ended, I sat there for a minute, feeling the weight of it all settle deeper into my bones. An investigation was happening. My life was about to change, and there was no turning back now. But as much as I wanted to curl up and hide from everything, part of me felt relieved. I was taking control of my own story again. For the first time in a while, I was doing something for me. It wasn't long after I filed the complaint that Dr. Jensen started calling me. At first, I didn't even look at the caller ID. I knew who it was, her number was saved in my contacts, and I wasn't about to answer. But the calls kept coming, one after the other. Each time I ignored them, my stomach twisted a little more. I wasn't sure what she wanted, but I already knew what she wasn't going to get. An explanation from me. The first voicemail came that evening. Her voice was tight, like she was trying to hold it together, but it was clear she was upset. "Hi. Protagonist's name. It's Dr. Jensen. I've been trying to reach you. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Please, let's talk about this. I never meant to cross any boundaries. I was just trying to help. I'm really concerned for you. Please, call me back when you can." I stared at my phone for a second, then deleted the message. I didn't need to listen to her excuses. She left more voicemails. In each one, her tone shifted, first pleading, then frustrated. "I understand you're upset, but we need to talk. I didn't mean for things to go this far. You have to believe me, I was trying to help you." You're not the only one who's been hurt in this situation. Please let me explain. Just pick up the phone. I want to fix this. By the fourth voicemail, I could hear the desperation in her voice. I almost felt sorry for her, but that wasn't the point. This wasn't about her feelings. It was about what she'd done, and what she still hadn't owned up to. I wasn't going to get sucked back into her manipulation. So I started documenting every single attempt she made to contact me. Dates, times, the messages. I forwarded the voicemails to the investigator handling my case. Each message was a piece of evidence, proof that Dr. Jensen was trying to spin a narrative where she was the victim, where I was somehow overreacting. She wasn't just violating my privacy. She was trying to control the story. It got worse. A few days later, I got an email from her. I read it twice, then a third time because I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. She wrote that she only gave Claire advice because she was worried about my mental health. She said she thought Claire would be able to help me through my issues, that it was common practice to work with family or close partners in therapy when it was clear someone was struggling. She even claimed that what she'd shared with Claire wasn't anything private, nothing that would harm the therapeutic process, and that she'd only been trying to help both of us work through the challenges. The audacity of it. It was like she thought I would buy this crap. Like I was just some confused patient who couldn't see what she was really doing. I forwarded the email to the investigator, along with a note. This is her attempt at covering her tracks. Please add this to the file. The more I read her words, the more I felt that sickening knot in my stomach. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even close to being sorry. She was trying to justify herself, to turn the whole thing around so it seemed like she was some kind of martyr, just trying to help me. It made me sick. She was so focused on saving her career, on protecting her reputation, that she didn't care about the damage she'd done. It was hard not to feel completely violated by her attempts to cover it up. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not anymore. Every attempt to reach me, every email, every voicemail I documented. I wasn't going to miss a thing. This wasn't just about me getting closure. This was about making sure no one else got hurt by her. I kept going over the email she'd sent, replaying parts of it in my head. It didn't make sense. She knew better. She knew she was crossing a line. And now she was acting like this was all some big misunderstanding. Couldn't let that stand. Not when the truth was so clear. And the more I thought about it, the more it hit me. This was the real Dr. Jensen. Not the therapist who acted like she cared. Not the one who made me feel understood in those brief moments between sessions. This was the person who would betray your trust the moment it suited her, who would throw you under the bus to save her own skin. The investigation was just starting, but I already knew what I was up against. Dr. Jensen wasn't going to make this easy, but I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. I didn't expect anything to come of the complaint right away. Part of me thought the whole process would drag on, maybe even fizzle out like most things do when they're out of your hands. But then one morning, as I was trying to catch up on emails, I saw a message that made my stomach drop. The subject line read, "I need to talk to you. You're not alone." It was from someone named Laura. I didn't recognize the name at first, but when I opened it, I was hit with a wave of recognition. Hi. Protagonist's name. I'm writing to you because I saw the complaint you filed against Dr. Jensen. I was one of her patients, too, and I want you to know you're not the only one. I've been through what you're going through, and I have evidence. She crossed lines with me, too. Worse than you can imagine. I leaned back in my chair, reading it over again. This couldn't be real. It was too much. Too many pieces of a puzzle I hadn't even realized I was missing. I know it's hard to believe, but she shared my therapy details with my family. She even posted about me on Facebook. I thought it was just me, but I've come to realize I'm not the only one. My hands were shaking, and I clicked the attachment she'd sent. There it was, screenshots, messages, between Dr. Jensen and Laura's mother. They were talking about Laura's therapy, about her struggles. Not just vague comments either. Personal stuff. Details. My heart pounded in my chest. This wasn't just a slip-up, a mistake. This was deliberate. Dr. Jensen had done this more than once. I read the messages, the sickening realization sinking in with each word. Dr. Jensen had reassured Laura's mom that everything was normal in Laura's therapy, that she was making progress. There was even a line where she told her, "I know it's tough, but I'm confident she'll come around soon. Keep being patient with her." What the hell was this? Therapy wasn't supposed to work like this. The breach of trust was beyond anything I had even imagined. This wasn't just about breaking the rules, it was about manipulation. About using people's personal lives as her own gossip. Laura had sent me more details. She said she had confronted Dr. Jensen a few months ago when she realized what had happened, and Dr. Jensen had just laughed it off, told her she was overreacting. Laura, like me, had trusted her, opened up, and now everything she'd shared was out there, exposed. The betrayal was the same. After that, things moved fast. Laura and I talked on the phone for hours that evening. She was angry, but more than that, she was relieved. She wasn't alone. We weren't alone. We decided to reach out to others. I didn't know where to start, but Laura had a few names. Former patients of Dr. Jensen, all of them quiet and careful about speaking out. We created a thread online, a private message group, and started sharing stories. Each one was worse than the last. One woman said Dr. Jensen had mentioned her panic attacks during a session with her boyfriend. Another said she'd overheard Dr. Jensen talking about her personal life to a colleague in a coffee shop. There were more, so many more. I felt my stomach twist. This wasn't just a pattern. It was a full-blown habit. We all made a plan. Each of us would file our own complaints with the licensing board separately, but with all the same evidence. Laura had already gathered a lot of it. Screenshots, text exchanges, emails from Dr. Jensen that were impossible to deny. We'd put everything together, piece by piece, and this time, Dr. Jensen wouldn't be able to wiggle her way out of it. I spent hours going through everything I'd collected again. More screenshots, more messages, more evidence. I was sick of thinking about it, sick of how much it had consumed my life over the past few weeks, but I had no choice. There was no turning back now. We filed our complaints. One by one, we submitted everything we had. It was surreal knowing that each one of us had been affected by the same person, the same violation in different ways. And the more we connected, the clearer it became. Dr. Jensen wasn't just some isolated incident. She was a therapist using her position for her own gain, violating trust in ways that should have been impossible. I felt a surge of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. Not because of what we were doing, honestly, I was still terrified of what would happen next. But because, for the first time, I wasn't fighting alone. There were others out there who understood exactly what I was going through. We were a team now, and that made all the difference. The emails started coming in from the licensing board. It was official. They had opened the investigation. And now we were all in it together, holding Dr. Jensen accountable. For everything. The investigation into Dr. Jensen picked up pace faster than I expected. Once the licensing board had the multiple complaints from former patients, including the evidence we gathered, things went from slow-moving to a full-blown avalanche. Dr. Jensen tried to deny everything, but the mountain of proof we had was impossible to ignore. It didn't take long before the board scheduled a hearing to formally address the allegations. It felt surreal, like everything that had been building for weeks was about to come crashing down. I'd never imagined it would get this far, but now there was no backing down. Dr. Jensen was in full damage control mode. She had hired a lawyer and the letters started coming in. Cease and desist. Accusations of defamation. She claimed we were all lying, that we were making things up to destroy her career. But I didn't believe her anymore, and neither did the others. Each letter she sent made my blood boil. The arrogance, the refusal to take responsibility. It was like she thought she could intimidate us into silence. It made me want to push harder, to make sure this wasn't just a battle for my own justice, but for all of us who had been hurt. As the hearing day approached, I tried to prepare myself. I had my testimony ready, but the truth was, I was nervous. Not for myself, but for everything I had to say. Talking about it, about how Dr. Jensen had betrayed me, was like ripping open a wound that I'd been trying to keep closed. But I had to do it. I couldn't let her get away with this, not after everything. The day of the hearing arrived, and when I walked into that sterile room, It felt like the world had narrowed down to this one moment. I sat at a table with Laura, a few others who had filed complaints, and a few representatives from the licensing board. My heart was thudding in my chest. I couldn't help but glance over at Dr. Jensen. She was sitting with her lawyer, the same cold, detached look on her face that I'd seen too many times in our sessions. But today, that look wasn't going to work. The board members called each of us up to testify. When it was my turn, I stood, my hands shaking despite myself, and walked to the front. I thought about all the conversations I'd had with friends, the nights I'd spent reliving the worst of it, the shock of realizing how far Dr. Jensen had gone. But here, in this room, I wasn't going to let myself fall apart. Not now. I started by explaining who I was, how I trusted Dr. Jensen, and what I had shared with her in therapy. Then I got to the heart of it, the breach of confidentiality, the way she'd crossed every boundary that a therapist is supposed to respect. I didn't hold back. I talked about how Claire had learned about my trauma, how Dr. Jensen had shared things she shouldn't have, and how that had shattered my trust not just in her, but in the very idea of therapy. It wasn't easy, but I could see the board members listening closely, taking notes, their faces serious. They weren't buying the stories Dr. Jensen was telling. Not anymore. When I finished, I sat down, feeling exhausted but also a little lighter. I had said my piece, and I knew it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone who'd been hurt by Dr. Jensen, about holding her accountable. Laura went next. Her story mirrored mine. She spoke about the conversations Dr. Jensen had with her mother, how she had violated her privacy, how she had shared personal details that should have stayed in the therapy room. Laura's voice trembled at times, but she held it together, and by the time she finished, I could see that the board members were no longer just listening. They were hearing us. Dr. Jensen's lawyer tried to argue that she had been only trying to help, that she was worried about our mental health and that she hadn't intended to breach any confidentiality. The lawyer even claimed that we were all exaggerating, that this was some sort of misunderstanding. It made my blood boil. I was ready for this to be over, but Dr. Jensen wasn't backing down, and neither was her lawyer. But there was no getting around the evidence. The text messages, the Facebook posts, the emails we'd collected, it all pointed in one direction. Dr. Jensen had used her position as a therapist to manipulate us, to betray our trust for her own benefit. The more they tried to spin it, the clearer it became. She had crossed a line that should never have been crossed, and she had done it more than once. The hearing lasted for hours. The board members asked questions, clarifying details, going over the evidence again and again. But in the end, it was clear that Dr. Jensen couldn't explain away what she had done. As the hearing wrapped up, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. The process wasn't over, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was going to get the justice I'd been waiting for. Dr. Jensen's career, her reputation, everything she had worked for was now on the line. And I knew we had done everything we could to make sure she couldn't just walk away from this. When the hearing ended, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt worn out, like I just fought a battle that had drained every ounce of energy from me. But I knew that standing up for myself, for all of us, was the right thing to do. And I wasn't done yet. We weren't done yet. A few days after the hearing, I got the call I had been waiting for, but honestly, I wasn't ready for it. The licensing board had made its decision. Dr. Jensen's license was revoked. The words felt like they hit me in waves, each one carrying more weight than the last. She was done. No more therapy, no more clients, no more pretending to be someone she wasn't. And if that wasn't enough, criminal charges were being considered for the HIPAA violations. The board had concluded that Dr. Jensen had repeatedly breached patient confidentiality and manipulated vulnerable people for her own gain. A part of me should have felt triumphant. I should have felt like a victory had been won. And in some ways, I did. But the relief I thought I'd feel was mixed with something darker, something that stuck with me in the quiet moments. Dr. Jensen was ruined. But what about the damage she left behind? The things we couldn't undo? My trust in people, my ability to believe that someone could care about me without hidden motives. Those weren't so easily fixed. I had just hung up from the board when I saw a new message. It was from Claire. I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, and I owe you an apology. I was wrong to get involved with Dr. Jensen like I did, and I realize now that I let her manipulate me. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you. I can't change the past, but I want to at least acknowledge my part in all of this. Please know that I never meant to hurt you. I stared at the screen for a long time. Her words felt hollow. I wanted to believe her, to feel some sense of relief that she was sorry. But the truth was, I couldn't just forget how everything had unfolded. I couldn't forget the betrayal of trusting her, or the way she'd acted like nothing was wrong until it all came crashing down. I had to respond, but I didn't want to drag this out anymore. I needed closure, and I knew that couldn't come from anything Claire could offer. I appreciate your apology, but the truth is you were part of this. You let Dr. Jensen manipulate you just like she did with me. I'm sorry, Claire, but I can't just forgive you. I can't go back. Our relationship has changed, and it's something I can't undo. I don't think I can have any more contact with you. The words felt final even as I typed them. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over send. It was the hardest thing I'd had to do in a long time. But I hit send, and once it was done, I felt nothing but a heavy sense of finality. The phone buzzed almost immediately after I sent the message, but I didn't check it. I knew it was Claire, probably pleading for another chance to explain herself, to fix everything. But I couldn't do it. Not anymore. I had already spent so much time trying to understand her actions, trying to make sense of her part in all of this. But now, after everything, I understood one thing. Some things some people just couldn't be fixed. I never heard from Claire again after that day. And in a way, that was a relief. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to rebuild. Dr. Jensen, on the other hand, wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. Her career was over. The damage she had caused, though both to us as individuals and to the trust we had placed in her, was irreversible. I knew that no matter what happened next, she wouldn't be coming back from this. The board had spoken, and now the criminal charges would unfold. As for me, I don't know. I wasn't sure where to go from here. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let this define me. The healing, the rebuilding of my trust would take time. But it was mine to do, and I'd do it on my terms. I went back to therapy with a new counselor, one who was nothing like Dr. Jensen. She was quiet, thoughtful, and didn't have any kind of agenda beyond helping me get better. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to trust anyone the way I trusted her. But I was trying. One day at a time. That night, I stood by the window and looked out at the city. It was strange, knowing that something so fundamental in my life had shifted. But maybe it was for the better. I had learned, painfully, that trusting the wrong people could break you. But it also taught me that I could survive. And maybe that was the most important lesson of all. I didn't know what the future would hold, but I was done looking back. Looking back on everything, from the moment I found out about Claire and Dr. Jensen to the day the board revoked her license. It feels like I'm seeing it all through a haze. It doesn't feel real, but at the same time, it does. It's been a whirlwind. One I never wanted to be a part of, but one that taught me something I didn't realize I needed to learn. I've spent a lot of time reflecting over the past few months. A lot of late nights, a lot of quiet mornings, trying to understand what happened, why it happened, and what I've taken from it. And here's what I know. Standing up for myself, for my privacy, for my mental health, doing that was the right thing. It was messy, painful, and it felt like it might break me some days, but it didn't. It made me stronger. It gave me a sense of control I hadn't known I was missing. I didn't just survive Dr. Jensen's betrayal. I took responsibility for making sure it didn't happen to anyone else. I'm in therapy now, again, but with someone who doesn't use social media, someone who keeps boundaries where they should be, someone who actually listens. It's different. I don't know if I'll ever feel 100% trusting again, but I've learned to trust my instincts. I've learned that the little voice inside me, that gut feeling, is there for a reason. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. It's strange, the way this whole thing has shifted me. It's hard to explain, but there's a clarity now, a sense of self-worth that I didn't have before. It's like I've finally started standing up for the things that matter. Not just for my privacy or my dignity, but for my own damn peace of mind. And I've been thinking about the others who came forward. Laura, the other patients, my friends. We all came together and said enough is enough. I couldn't have done this without them. We gave each other strength when it felt like there was none left. I don't think I could have faced Dr. Jensen on my own. But together, we made sure she didn't get away with it. I guess if there's one piece of advice I'd give to anyone who might find themselves in a similar situation, it's this. Speak up. Document everything. Don't let anyone convince you that your boundaries don't matter. And if someone violates your trust, hold them accountable. No matter who they are or what position they hold. It's your life, your privacy, and you have every right to protect it. Don't let anyone take that from you. As I close this chapter, I feel like I'm stepping into something new. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'll face it differently. With more confidence, more clarity, and more respect for myself than I had before. And that feels like the real victory. It's time to move on. But I'm not going to forget what I learned. Not ever.